Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jewish National Fund USA's Veterans Day celebration. A salute to Jewish veterans. Today, we honour our brave servicemen and women. They are our brothers and sisters, fathers and mothers, sons and daughters who have served and continue to serve a grateful nation. Shortly, we will hear stories about their dedication and sacrifice as we come to understand what it means to be a patriot and to love one's nation. Veterans Day is an especially meaningful time for Jewish National Fund USA. Through our Wall of Honor located at Ammunition Hill in Jerusalem, we pay tribute to Jewish men and women who served in various armies around the world. Wherever you are joining us from, let us acknowledge their contributions as we hear about their stories of heroism, bravery, and selflessness during today's celebration.
Hello, everybody. My name is David Margulies, and I've been involved with the Jewish National Fund since 2001. One of my earliest trips to Israel with JNF involved a visit to Ammunition Hill, which I had not visited before. Ammunition Hill, as many of you know, is the site of the bloodiest battle of the Jerusalem front in the Six-Day War. It was there that Israeli paratroopers opened the door to the city of Jerusalem by working their way through a Jordanian military base. The visit to the site was really enlightening in a couple of ways. The Jordanians were entrenched in concrete trenches and blockhouses, and the Israelis had to attack uphill through that. At the end of our visit, we sat in a hall that was decorated with posters of each of the Israeli soldiers who had fallen there. And I was struck by the fact that these soldiers were the same age as some of my children at that point. And I was also taken by thoughts of my father. My father at that age, actually even at a younger age, was fighting his way through Europe in the vanguard of Patton's Third Army. My father was a U.S. combat engineer, which meant that he was the guy building the bridges, clearing the minefields, so that Patton's tanks could get through. My father was the first GI to cross into Belgium when Patton relieved Bastogne during the Battle of the Bulge. And he didn't talk much about it, but he did talk a bit about it. And so being at that site really made me think very deeply about my father and his experience. The site at that point was not very developed. There was construction that had started on a museum and a visitor center, but they had run out of money. This was 2002 or 2003. And I thought again about my father. He had been very proud of the fact that he had contributed to the renovation of the Statue of Liberty. And in recognition, there was a plaque in honor of his mother. And it occurred to me that was a wonderful way to honor not just my father, but to all of the Jews who had fought in the armies of the world in defense of their countries, wherever they were. And that by doing so, we could raise a lot of money for Ammunition Hill, and we could honor those soldiers that we cared about. I bought a plaque for my father, which was one of the first plaques. I also bought plaques for other family members and for some of my Israeli military heroes. And I was very happy to come back to Ammunition Hill several years later with my father, and to see what had happened there, and to see the interactive maps and the wonderful museum and the beautiful visitor center. It was inspiring, and it was inspiring for my father. When we started the campaign, my father and I were interviewed together in his apartment. And he spoke about some of his experiences, and it was really a wonderful source of pride for me to sit there with him and to think about honoring Jewish soldiers, and particularly honoring my father. By the way, this is a picture of me and my parents at Ammunition Hill when we visited.
I was drafted when I was 19 years old. I was put into a combat engineer troop, and I was trained in demolitions and explosives, laying minefields, picking them up, demolishing bridges, working with a mine detector. I was the first GI to cross from Luxembourg to Germany after the Battle of the Bulge, and I crossed with a mine detector. It was very important to me personally to be involved in the effort during World War II because of the way the Jews had been treated in Germany.
I wanted a way to honor my father, and Ammunition Hill was the perfect place for it, because what they wanted to do there was to make it a broader memorial, not just for those individual soldiers, but for all Jews who fought in the armies of the world. And it was a place that I felt was for my father, and I wanted to honor him there.
We're planning, the entire family, we're planning to go in June. We're going to take all of the children and grandchildren, and that will be one of our stops.
My dad passed away this past February at Tu B'Shvat. He was, to the end, very proud of his military service, very proud of his Jewish identity, and very proud of his connection to the state of Israel. And to know that an idea that had a genesis in my father's experience in World War II and my father's charitable support of the renovation of the Statue of Liberty in honor of his mother, and to know that now there's more than 500 plaques that have been purchased to honor military personnel around the world. I view Ammunition Hill not just as a monument to the sacrifice of those Israeli soldiers in 1967, and not just a recognition of the contribution that Jews have made to the defense of countries around the world where they found themselves, but that it's a place that is hallowed ground in terms of my father and my relationship with my father. With that, I now would like to introduce Alon Wald, who is the head of marketing and operations of Ammunition Hill. And I want to introduce him with a special thanks for the kindness that he has shown to me and my family, and all of the support, particularly after my father's passing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David Margulies. My name is Alon Wald, and I'm speaking to you from the heart of the battlefield of Ammunition Hill. And boy, am I so proud to be able to address you guys during such a meaningful day of America. I'm 54 years old, but the story of Ammunition Hill, the beginning of the story, is the beginning of my life. I used to be a 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old kid that was running in the trenches of Ammunition Hill. I didn't know that one of the toughest, most complicated battles that the paratroopers of the IDF ever faced was here almost 54 years ago. I lost my own dear, humble father, Captain Rami Wald, a combat engineer specialist of the Paratroopers Corps in these trenches. My father, same as all other liberators of Jerusalem, was a reservist. 2 weeks before, he was a civilian. He was a carpenter. He was the love of the life of my mother. He was a proud father to a 10-month baby. But when his nation needed him, and it happens time and again during the 72 years of our existence, when a full-scale war falls on our heads, we need to summon up all of our fighting units. Many of them are the reservists, who have to make this unbelievable shift in their mind from being a lover to a fighter. I'm talking about a lifetime of me trying to understand the minute my father had to sniff my head for the last time and leave me for the greater good. I remember that while I was running in these trenches at the age of 6 and 7 and 8, I posed questions to the friends of my father, his comrade in arms. Did my father like me? Didn't he love my mother? Why did he leave us? For the greater good. Today I know they couldn't do anything else, and Ammunition Hill today stands for amazing values my father and his friends implemented while securing our future, while liberating Jerusalem. Camaraderie, bravery, commitment to a mission, loyalty, leadership, all these amazing words that we use here on a daily basis to enlist the legacy of the liberators of Jerusalem is something that does not belong only to wartime, does not belong only to the paratroopers or to the Israelis for that extent. And we learned to know about this when Jewish National Fund started to become involved with what we do here at Ammunition Hill. When we talk about values, we talk about our nation. We talk about core values that led us to be who we are today. And for that matter, 6,000 miles from where I'm standing now in the United States, you can share the same values that I do. Because my father, first and foremost, was a family member, was a human being. But he chose time and again to serve his nation, to implement these amazing core values. And this is why the evolution of Ammunition Hill led us to become a worthy international site. And one of the most great assets we have here is the Jewish Combatants Honoring Wall. So I'm handing it over now to Yoel Rosby from Jewish National Fund USA in Israel, who is going to connect the dots for you. Yoel, take it from here.
Thank you, Alon. Wow, it's amazing to be here on Ammunition Hill, and thank all of you for coming. We're standing here at the Wall of Honor on Ammunition Hill. David, 500 plaques that we're looking at on this wall. What is the Wall of Honor? Now, the Wall of Honor, it's a symbol. It's a symbol of the story that Alon just told us, not about Israeli heroism, but about Jewish heroism. Throughout times, generations, Jews have always fought for what they believed in, for the countries that they were a part of, because that was what was right. My grandparents' resting place where we memorialize them may be in Chicago. But here on Ammunition Hill, we had the privilege to honor who they were as individuals that led up to the moment that they chose to put on that uniform, to stand up for what they believed in. Like them on this wall, there are hundreds from the United States Army to the Indian Army to the Royal Canadian Air Force. And I walk here, and with my grandparents on this wall, I say it's not about the individuals on this wall. It's about the individuals that make up a whole. It's about the time I walked here with the Prime Minister of Israel and the Mayor of Jerusalem, and they looked at me and they said, Yoel, what is this wall? And I said, Mr. Prime Minister, what this wall is a symbol of heroism, a symbol that fighting is not a thing of the past. Fighting is not something we're scared of. Fighting for what we believe in is something of the past, the present, and the future. And Ammunition Hill, the Wall of Honor, and Jewish National Fund is what brings this to fruition, what brings this to the symbol to the world, that we are Jews, we are proud, this is Israel, and we will always stand up for what we believe in. I can't think of a better person to turn this over to than Michael Blank. He's a true patriot, a true Jewish hero, and also the treasurer of Jewish National Fund. Michael, take it away.
Thank you, Yoel, for sharing that wonderful story. My name is Michael Blank, and I'm a proud volunteer with JNF USA. You know, back in 2008, I was invited to my first JNF board meeting in Boston, and I have to admit, when I went there, my immediate reaction was I was thrilled. These were enthusiastic people, all passionate about Israel, pretty much exactly what I was looking for at the time. I couldn't wait to become involved and, to be honest with you, join in. From the Boston board that I started out at to the McCore group within JNF to the national board, it's been a meaningful, rewarding journey for me. Today, I serve as national treasurer, and I have the pleasure of witnessing firsthand our resources doing amazing projects in Israel. So one of these is the Wall of Honor at Ammunition Hill in Jerusalem. Hundreds of plaques are there representing hundreds of stories. I would like to share with you mine. My dad, Arthur Blank, served in World War II as a naval aviator. His role at the time was a flight instructor, teaching pilots how to take off and land on aircraft carriers. Now, they didn't actually do that initially. In order to instruct the pilots, you needed to first make sure they could safely land on an aircraft carrier. So they did this on land, and his job was to teach them how to land in between the markings where the flat top started and where it ended. So he would have ground crews there stationed with him as he stood there watching the trainees take off and land, and they would confirm whether the trainee landed within the demarcated area. If they didn't land properly, they didn't graduate to the real thing. So after those that succeeded and those that washed out, when all that was decided, those that succeeded were then sent on for successful runs to go practice on the real thing, which was actually in Pensacola, Florida, in the harbor right outside the base there. So my dad described how he did all this. And then he was asked, after doing this for about 6 months, to transition into the Naval Air Transport Service. Now, the Naval Air Transport Service is an interesting group. Their job was to fly commanders and admirals and VIPs and politicians, whomever, somebody that was important, back and forth across the country. Not the most exciting war story for sure, but it's exciting to me because that's how he met my mom in Kansas City. They met at the Naval Air Station in Olathe, Kansas, at a dance organized for Jewish officers. I always get a kick about a naval station in Kansas. By the way, this place was decommissioned in 1969, and John Glenn, by the way, is in the first class of trainees out of that station. So, continuing on with my story, when the Six-Day War broke out in 1967, my dad said he was heading over to help Israel any way he could. To be honest with you, I can never, ever forget his intensity and his passion to help. As a teenager, I recall at the time telling my mother that I was going with him. Well, she looked at me and she said, absolutely not. When I insisted that I'm old enough to decide, I swear she was going to threaten to cut off my allowance. Not only that, I think she was even going to send me to my room without dinner. Before we were done arguing about it, the war was over. So let's fast forward roughly 40 years. Both my two sons make Aliyah and volunteer as lone soldiers in the IDF. One served in the Nafel 932 Battalion as a sharpshooter, and the other in the Paratroopers 202 Brigade. Both did their tours of duty at different times, and today they're back in the Boston area. It's no exaggeration to say that Zionism runs deep in my immediate and extended family. Having two sons volunteer to serve one after the other in the IDF is I would say, a heavy dose of Jewish spilkies mixed with pride. My wife and I were, to be honest, nervous wrecks during their tours. I remember calling both of them while they were in the service, and sometimes I'd get a soft whisper saying, Dad, I can't talk now, we're on a mission, call me later, click. I'm not sure they were supposed to answer their phones during missions, but okay. I guess my point is that it's hard to describe feeling stressed and proud in the same emotional moment. As parents, you always want to support any way that you can, especially when you're talking about your children. So we thought about this a lot, and my wife and I would actually do crazy things like buy a tall stack of pizzas for the unit or send must-have items like warm clothing for those freezing winter nights in the Golan. I would say today, looking back, I'm thrilled to do something permanent now to acknowledge my father and my two sons. This wall of honor is a special place for them and for other Jewish warriors, no matter where or when he or she has served. To remember my dad in World War II and to recognize my two sons who served with pride in the IDF, my wife and I have purchased 3 plaques honoring each of them at Ammunition Hill. Whenever we visit Jerusalem, we make our way there to see the updated exhibits and, of course, to check out the plaques on the Wall of Honor. My wife and I thank JNF for this opportunity to honor Jewish members of the military, past and present, no matter where they may have served. I encourage you to honor someone who has or is serving in the military. Each plaque costs $5,000, and it's a great feeling when you recognize someone special. They can be ordered online at jnf.org/Ammunition Hill or by calling JNF directly, 800-JNF 0099. Please join us now in honoring all veterans as we present America's national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner, and the Israeli national anthem, Hatikva. This will conclude our program, and thank you for honoring our veterans.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on today's Jewish National Fund USA Veterans Day celebration. For more information on how you can honor a current or past serviceman or woman, visit jnf.org. Thank you.